to conclude the light reactions, I want to take you back to this slide and advise you to add this summary or a similar one in this visual into the inside of your foldable in this section right here. Okay, if you feel like this summary is too complex, you can put it in your own words. So you want to have this summary and this visual on the inside of your light dependent reaction part of the foldable. And with that, we are good to move on to conclude the process by just looking at what's left, which is the Calvin cycle. So the light reactions are a lot more complex and more demanding than the Calvin cycle. In the Calvin cycle, the preview shows you that what we have is carbon dioxide entering a cycle, going through it, and with the help of ATP and NADPH, sugar is finally produced. So we finally get to the production of sugars that plants need, and because of which they undergo photosynthesis. Here is a very complex Calvin cycle that fortunately you don't have to know it in much detail. So overall, what you do have to know is that the Calvin cycle uses the chemical energy from our ATPs and NADPHs that we got from the light reactions to transform carbon dioxide into sugar molecule. Okay? The input of the cycle is a carbon dioxide molecule entering one per cycle. And what you do have to know is that this enzyme right here called Rubisco is the main or most important enzyme that makes the transformation of CO2 into sugar possible. Rubisco is the most common enzyme in the world. I believe it is the one found in largest or highest quantity. So it's called Rubisco. Without Rubisco, carbon dioxide could never be transformed into sugar. So once it enters the cycle, it goes through a series of complex reactions where basically CO2 is constantly getting more carbons, more hydrogens, more oxygens, and it's just growing. Overall, it goes from this molecule to this one, and throughout this half cycle, we are clearly seeing that ATP is powering the process and NADPH is constantly donating its electrons to the process. So we harvested energy and electrons from the light reaction so we can power the transformation of CO2 into sugar through the Calvin cycle. Okay, so carbon dioxide is initially transformed into a sugar called glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate or G3P, and then that eventually becomes sugars or glucose in this case. The Calvin cycle has three main phases. The carbon fixation, let's get the carbon and fix it into a bigger or more complex molecule. The reduction phase, if you guys remember, Leo goes Gur. In reduction, electrons are gained. So electrons are being added right here from this molecule onto the molecule that's being produced in the cycle. And then lastly, we have the regeneration of the Rubisco and this compound right here. So when this cycle runs 3 times, we end up having our sugar. Here is a video that you guys can find in the PowerPoint. You are welcome to watch it if you feel like you need some more clarification on the cycle. You're not responsible to know this, but if you feel like you need to understand it better, you may look into it. But overall, here is what you want to have in your foldable on the right side where you have the Calvin cycle. And you definitely want to have this section right here that explains how in this process we are transforming CO2 into sugar with the help of ATP, its energy, and with the help of NADPH and its electrons. Okay, that's it. You're not responsible for what's on this slide.